Keeper of the Lost Cities, Everblaze, Chapter 36. Warm, salty air prickled their noses as Sophie and Fitz reappeared on a long stretch of pristine beach. The waves glowed with swirls of pink and green, but it felt wrong to be somewhere so safe and breathtaking while the world was burning. "How did this happen?" Fitz asked quietly. "I didn't even feel Finton move. How could he have called down Everblaze?" Sophie didn't have an answer. "We should get started," she said, tucking the stelloscope under her arm and reaching for the first-class bottle. She didn't realize she was shaking until the bottle slipped from her hands, landing on the soft thud in the silky white sand. "Hey," Fitz said, catching the scope as she nearly dropped it too. "You okay?" "I'm fine." But she could hear the tears rising in her throat, and now that she felt them, she couldn't hold them back. Fitz pulled her close, letting her cry on his shoulder as he whispered, "Everything's going to be okay." "Is it?" She wiped her runny nose on her smoky, singed sleeve. "Do you think everyone got out in time?" "I don't think my dad would have kept that from us. Do you?" "I guess not." But they both knew Alden was very good at hiding things. "I'm sorry I wouldn't let you search for your dad," she whispered. "You mean when I wanted to run into the fire like an idiot?" His chest heaved with a sigh. "Thank you for stopping me. And, thanks for saving my life. I was way too panicked to figure out how to get out of there." "Yeah, well, you saved me first. I had no idea the Everblaze was burning. If you hadn't pulled me back, I doubt I would have gotten out of there in time. I guess this proves we make a good team." A stretch of silence passed before he whispered, "Do you really think Eternalia is going to burn?" "Not if I can help it." She pulled away and grabbed the stelloscope, remembering why they were there. A tiny spout protruded from the narrow end of the scope, and she attached the bottle and hefted the heavy gadget up to her eye. "Which star do you need to find?" Fitz asked, lining up the other bottles in the sand. "Elementine is one of the unmapped stars." She could only find it because of the black swans carefully planted secrets. She searched the sky for the 6 stars her universe assignment had taught her to look for. The list had actually been prepared by the black swan as a clue, and when she connected the dots between the stars, the lines pointed to an empty space, where Elementine was hidden in the darkness. "Wait," Fitz said, removing his cape. He tore off 2 long shreds from the ends and handed them to her. "Elwyn still talks about how bad the burns on your hands were." Sophie could definitely remember the pain, though the Yeti pea balm he'd used to treat the injuries had probably been the worst part of the experience. She handed Fitz the stelloscope and tied the strips around her hands like bandages. The thick fabric should keep her skin protected, but it also made her grip super slippery. "Here," Fitz said, tying up his own hands with more cape shreds and moving behind her. He cupped his mummy palms underneath hers, cradling the scope from underneath. "Is that better, or is this weird?" "It's not weird," she promised, surprised to realize she meant it. It had felt weird when she'd stood in a nearly identical position with Dex a few months back, but it was different with Fitz. "So, which way are we looking?" Fitz asked, resting his arms on Sophie's shoulders. She squinted through the viewfinder, tracing the trails through the stars until she focused on a patch of darkness. She could tell Fitz was skeptical as she adjusted the knobs, and then adjusted again, and again. But when she flicked the switch, thick silvery starlight streaked from the sky, knocking them both backwards as it crashed into the scope. "Is it supposed to be freezing?" Fitz asked, as he carefully removed the sealed bottle. "That's how it was last time, only the scope gets hot. White hot, actually." She adjusted her grip, relieved to feel only a hint of warmth seeping through the makeshift gloves, as she screwed on the next empty bottle. Fitz nestled the quintessence in the sand, making sure it couldn't tip over. They worked through the majority of the bottles just as quickly, but the strain of the concentration gave Sophie a headache, and by the time they reached the final 5, she could barely see straight. "Can I help?" Fitz asked, as she rubbed her blurry eyes. "If you can tell me how to find Elementine, I should be able to do the rest. It's not really something I can tell. You have to just know what to look for, otherwise you'll never find it." "Okay, then can you show me? Transmit your memories of everything you look at when you're finding it. I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out from there." Sophie wasn't convinced it would work, but her raging headache insisted she try it. She handed Fitz the stellar scope, and they traded places, which felt way more awkward, given their height difference. "I think you're shorter than Biana," Fitz teased, as she stood on her tiptoes so she could see the sky over his shoulders. "She always wears heels." "I guess that is sort of cheating," Fitz agreed. "You ready?" "1 second." She opened her mind to his, then realized she'd forgotten to ask his permission beforehand. Fitz shrugged as she apologized, his shoulder blade nearly clipping her nose. "I don't mind having you know what I'm thinking, Sophie. I trust you." Her cheeks turned warm. "I trust you too." "Then send those messages and let's get this finished." "Right." She tried to transmit the memories, but sending images took more energy than she'd expected, and with her mind already so tired, she couldn't seem to find enough force. But she could feel a hint of a brain push energy tucked deep in the back of her mind, and when she mixed it with what was left of her consciousness, she was finally able to shove the memories into Fitz's head. "Wow, that was crazy. I think you sent me all of your memories of the stars." "Did I?" She checked his thoughts, and sure enough, his mind was struggling to process a never-ending stream of star maps. "Oh, sorry. Are you kidding? I'll never have to study for the universe again." It did take him a couple of minutes to find the information he needed. Precious time they couldn't spare, but once he found it, he bottled the quintessence on the first try. "I can see why you have a headache," he told her, as she changed out the bottles for him. "I feel like my brain's starting to stretch as I concentrate." Still, he bottled the last 4 just as quickly, and a few minutes later they had all the quintessence wrapped in shredded cape and loaded carefully into the bag. "I'll hail Alden," Sophie said, as Fitz pulled out the Pathfinder and spun the crystal. Alden didn't answer. She told herself he was just busy, and that everything was going to be okay. But when they finally leaped to the outskirts of Eternalia, they found the glittering city burning wildly with Everblaze.